At any given moment, you have the power to say that this is not how my story is going to end. Never forget that walking away from something unhealthy is brave, even if you stumble a little on your way out. So how do we get out of these uncertain situations and the darknesses we call failures? How do we get out of these uncomfortable and sleepless traumas? How do we now reaffirm ourselves and say, trauma may happen to me, but it does not define me? This is Get Out Alive World podcast with Tracey and Harriage. Hi, Dustyn.
Hey,
Thanks for being here.
my pleasure.
All right, so talk to me about who Dustyn is. How did you grow up? Because, well, hearing your accent, firstly, persons will know that you are not from Jamaica. So we want to know, you hear the patois. Nice. So talk to us about who Dustyn is, where you grew up, your background, all of that.
Yeah.
Tell us who Dustyn is.
Yeah, Dustyn, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family.
Mhm.
I actually grew up on a horse farm. My
Mhm.
parents bred and raised horses,
Mhm.
and I grew up out in the middle of nowhere.
Mhm.
Didn't really have any neighbors, didn't really have much other than horses and dogs and cats and farmland,
Mhm.
and it was great.
Yeah.
Most of my days were just spent out in the woods playing, and I was homeschooled. My mom taught me at home. She made
Wow.
that decision, and I went to preschool.
Mhm.
And then they were like, you know what? I think we just want to homeschool. We want to be able to teach our own values and
Mhm.
teach our kids how we see best fit.
Mhm.
And that kind of ruined me for the rest of my life.
Well, ruined.
Ruined. Some
Why?
people would say ruined. Some people would say set you up. But, I say it changed the way I thought. Because growing up, I didn't wake up at a certain time to be to school at a certain time, to come home, to do homework.
Mhm.
I woke up, I went out, did my chores,
Mhm.
came back, did my schoolwork,
Mhm.
played,
Mhm.
played,
Mhm.
played,
Mhm.
ate dinner, watched TV,
Yes.
went to bed, woke up the next day, and did it all over again.
Oh my God.
And my schooling took 2 or 3 hours for the entire day. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, my parents, we had a gopher infestation, which they're a small rodent, kind of like a mongoose, but they destroy farmers' fields.
Wow.
Because they eat the roots of the grass, and they put holes in the fields. Livestock breaks their legs. It's hard to farm. And so I was like, well, how about I get them? And so I went and I got my shotgun and I sat in front of a hole, and I never did get it.
Hold on. You had a shotgun?
Yeah.
At what age?
Oh, I was probably 8.
So who gave you that shotgun?
My parents.
What?
Yeah. I grew up out in the country. I grew up on a farm. You just, different world. And so then my parents said, well, we know one of our friends that knows how to trap, and he traps rodents. And I said, great, can I learn? So he came over and he taught me and showed me what traps to use. And so I started trapping those, and I got good at it. And my parents, they loaned me about $20 US to start off with 2 traps. Once I went to my neighbors and I said, hey, I want to trap rodents for you. What will you pay me? And so they offered to pay me, and I got $1 per rodent. And I reinvested and reinvested and reinvested, and I ended up probably having about 50 traps.
Wow.
That I would go and maintain on a daily basis. And I would wake up in the morning, go check my traps, come back, do my schoolwork, go check my traps, go play, check them again in the evening. And summer was always the best because beautiful weather.
Yeah.
And I would catch the most rodents during the summer, and I'd average about $1,000 a month, US dollars. And so for me, growing up was very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
My dad, he's been a farrier for 51 years now. My grandpa owned a plumbing company. My uncle owned a hub for DHL. And so I saw business owners, and I saw people getting to live life, not having to show up at a certain time if they really didn't want to. My dad, if we wanted to go on vacation or go camping or go fishing, he would just, okay, we're going to block off that day. We're going to block off that week, and we're going to go have fun and make memories.
Yeah.
And so for me growing up, that's what I saw.
Yeah.
When I was 14, I had the opportunity to go to community college, which is kind of, it's where you go get your associate's degree in the US. And so at 14 years old, I was taking college courses with adults, and it totally changed my association. I grew up in a great household, my parents going to church, going to Awanas, which is a weekly Bible thing for kids. And then I get thrown into an adult world at 14 years old, which was a great learning experience and growing up experience for me, but also exposed me to things that most 14-year-olds aren't exposed to.
Right.
And so then, that took me down a different path. And that's when I started partying. That's when I started drinking. That's when I started not having a great association and a great wholesome family life, because not because of my parents, but because I removed myself. Right. And got my first job, full-time job at 16, and realized this doesn't work.
Yeah.
40 hours a week for this little of a paycheck. And but then I started associating with kids my age, other 16-year-olds, other high school age kids, and I grew up in a small town. We moved from the farm, and my parents got property closer to town, and before I could drive, I'd hop on my mountain bike and ride into the city and cause problems all day. Then I got my license and bought my first truck, and now I had wheels, and so I didn't have to ride a bike into the city anymore. I just drove around, and I worked, I partied. I chose to study fire science in school because I looked through the program.
What is fire science, though? For persons who don't know what fire science is, what is fire science?
That's what you study when you want to be a firefighter.
Oh, okay.
And I studied the wildland aspect, so forest fires in fire science.
That's the most dangerous of them all.
Can be, yeah, very unpredictable. We just had forest fires in Oregon, the state that I'm from, and there was over 30,000 acres on fire.
Wow.
And, just evacuation, horrible, horrible circumstances. And so that's what I chose to study, but I chose to study it because, one, I only had to go to class for the whole semester. So a semester in the US is 3 months. My entire course for that semester was 2 days.
What?
Because we would do 2 8-hour days, which equals your 16 hours to get your credits.
Oh my God. 2 days?
2 days, and I get my credits for the term. Rather than going, an hour a day, 3 days a week, or 2 hours a day, 2 days a week, it would just be 2 days. And I chose wildland fire science because I saw an opportunity to work 4 months out of the year and make a year's worth of income. Now, you're working 16 to 20-hour days. You're living on the fire line.
Right.
But that means I get the rest of the year off.
Yes.
That means I get 8 months off. And so going back to how I grew up, being homeschooled, having my first business when I was about 8, 9 years old, I've always valued time more than money.
Right.
And I've always wanted to get the most money for the least amount of my time invested.
Right. Right.
And that's why I chose that field to study. That's why I chose that field to pursue potentially as a career. Never ended up fighting fires. I volunteered as a firefighter for a little bit and decided it's not the culture I wanted to be a part of. The culture that was depicted as the fire department life was that you live at the fire department.
Right.
If it's your day off, you're still at the fire department because those are your friends.
Right.
That's your family. And I wanted to have my own family. I wanted to have my own friends. I wanted to have my own life, not be engulfed in that.
Right.
And so went down a different road, followed my dad's footsteps, and became a farrier. Learned how to do that when I was 18 years old, and I've been doing that ever since. So it's been almost 17 years of working with horses and working on horses' feet and taking care of their hooves, and it's been great. But it still requires me to show up. Right. And circumstances happen. Broke my wrist about 5 weeks ago. I can't get under a horse. I can't even hold a horse because if they spook and their head hits my wrist, it can re-break it. And so, thankfully, my dad and I work in partnership, and he's taking care of that side of the business. But it showed me that I need to put myself in a position where providing for my family isn't tied to my physical capabilities.
Right.
And I saw that at a young age with my dad and the way that I grew up, because he could never go snow skiing, go water skiing, go do things that could potentially hurt him because there would be no income. And so growing up, I saw a lot of these things, but it's not usually until later in life that we realize them.
Right. I heard you speaking about your family, but I never heard you speaking anything about a sibling where you're the only child.
I have an older brother. He's 5 years older than I am. We are polar opposites. He is very book smart, very intelligent. He works in accounting and the IT side of accounting, and he's actually one of less than 50 people certified to do what he does in the US.
Wow.
And I mean, brilliant in what he does, but we're polar opposites. But he's a huge dreamer and has huge aspirations for life. He actually lived in Jamaica for a couple years with me back 2011 to 2013, and he loved it here. You know, crazy. He'd walk from Red Hills down to Halfway Tree.
What?
He couldn't afford taxi fare, you know, budget was limited. But he had meetings, he had business to attend to, and so rather than make excuses, he just walked.
Yeah.
And you know, but that's what it takes to create success in anything in life.
Yeah, so true. I heard you also, before I ask you about family, how did you come to Jamaica? What motivates you to come to Jamaica? Because knowing what I know now and what my team member know now, you're in Jamaica for
14 years.
And I think you're in Jamaica for more than 6 months of the year, more than 7 months, thereabout.
It adds up to about 100 to 120 days a year. We're here 10 months out of the year, anywhere from a week to 3 weeks at a time.
So what inspired you to come to Jamaica?
The dream. You know, the dream of not just creating success, but creating significance. And there's a big difference between the two. In my opinion, success is about you sleeping well and eating well. Significance is about helping others sleep well and eat well.
Right.
And I have my best friend, he was moving to Jamaica in the fall of 2010 and expanding a distribution business here. And he said, "Do you want to go?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Well, you got to pay your own way." Now, I was 20 years old at the time. I'd had my business for a while. I'd, you know, bought cars and toys and different things. And so I liquidated everything and talked to my parents and was like, "Hey, you know, this is where I need to be. This is what I need to do. This is my dream." And they said, "Well, we'll support you in the best way that we can." And so that's what brought me to Jamaica. I was 20 years old. I had that conversation October 1st of 2010. And October 21st, I landed in Jamaica. In those 20 days, I sold everything I owned. I drove to a passport office because I'd never had a passport before. I'd never traveled further east than Las Vegas, Nevada. And I hopped on an airplane and flew to a place that I didn't even know where it was on the map. I didn't really do well in school, so I didn't worry about geography. I just knew that Kingston was the airport, so I booked a plane ticket to Kingston. You know, I needed an apartment. So I called up a realtor for a company that was well known and that I was familiar with in the States as well, and said, "Hey, I need an apartment." Originally, our office was over off Lady Musgrave, and so I said, "I want to be in walking distance to Lady Musgrave because I don't really know the area. I've never been before." And he said, "Great, we have 2 options." Which, knowing what I know now, there's hundreds of options within walking distance of Lady Musgrave. But he said there was 2, a 1-bedroom, 1-bath for $1,000 US a month, or a 2-bedroom, 2-bath for $1,000 US a month. I said, "Well, I'll take the 2. And wired money, secured the apartment, and had a guy I met on Facebook pick me up from the airport and take me to the apartment that I'd never seen. It was all there. I arrived, and it all worked out.
So your parents trusted your decision to move, to sell everything you had and move from the US to Jamaica at that time, at that tender age of 20?
Yep. Because I've always beat to my own drum. I've always done my own thing. And my parents are great people, but I wasn't a great kid.
Why do you say that?
Anything they said I should do, I did the opposite.
Oh my God. See? I knew it, that there was somebody out there like myself doing the opposite of what parents say.
Oh yeah. And they knew that if they tried to stop me or challenge me from the age of 15, that I would just leave.
Rebellious.
Oh, very rebellious.
Yes.
Very rebellious. And so they chose their battles. You know, from the age 18 to 20, I matured a lot. And it all comes back to association. I believe association, in my opinion, in my faith, it's the second most powerful thing that we have. The first, in my opinion, my faith is my relationship with our Creator. But association is the second, because who you associate with is going to determine where you end up in life.
Amen. Yes.
And so I got around great association at 19. Businessmen, successful people with great marriages, with great integrity, great values. And that changed everything in a 12-month period.
Cool breeze.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah. The breeze
sorry,
is nice.
I had to do that. I had to do that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to do that. So we're in the cool hills of St. Andrew, so I had to do that. Anybody who knows Jamaica knows that. Cool St. Andrew, cool breeze.
Especially in August.
Especially in August. I had to put in that plug. Right? But how was your transition in Jamaica though? Anybody who knows Jamaica knows Jamaica rough. Rough. How was your transition in Jamaica?
It was a culture shock. I come from a small country town. And coming to Jamaica, Kingston in specific, I lived right across from Devon House at Abbey Court. And the first day I didn't leave the apartment. You know, it was just culture shock. I'd never gone through customs, immigration. I had never driven on the other side of the road. None of that. And so major culture shock. But then I was like, okay, well, I'm here. I'm investing money being here.
Yeah.
I can't just sit at home. Something has to happen.
Yeah.
And so I put on my big boy shoes and went outside and just started walking. And I hadn't gotten a Digicel chip yet, so I still, I didn't have data. We were still rocking the Blackberries back then. And I'm walking, looking for Megamart, which is on Waterloo.
Right.
And I ended up by ATL, which is on Crossroads. And finally, I stopped and I said, which way's Devon House? Because I knew that's where I lived, was across from Devon House, and everybody knew where that was. And they're like, other way, you should turn around now.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So I start walking back the other way and get on Wi-Fi and reach out to a couple people I know. I'm like, how do I get to Megamart? I need groceries. And they're like, oh, we'll come pick you up. We'll show you. And the transition was great because I made a lot of great friends. It was great because I made a lot of great relationships. And I would leave my house every morning and I would go walk down Trafalgar, down Knutsford Boulevard, go to Emancipation Park, all over New Kingston. New Kingston, Halfway Tree. I walked everywhere. And I made friends with every person I could on the road because I knew that if I got in trouble, at least people knew me.
Yes.
And made great friends with a guy named Luther that sold things out of a grocery cart at the bus stop on Trafalgar. Made friends with the security guards outside the banks, and it started building my fingers of relationships in the community, and also business relationships and expanding business, and sharing what we were doing in Jamaica business wise. Because if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you can't sit at home.
Right.
You have to go do something. You have to go make something happen for yourself because nobody's going to do it for you. It's not a job. You're not getting a salary. And if I wanted to eat, I had to go make money.
Right. If you don't work, you don't get paid. So that's the motto for entrepreneurs right now. What type of business you started in Jamaica when you just got here?
So we expanded a distribution business, importing Amway products from the U.S. And Amway's been around since the 50s. They had never officially been in Jamaica before. It's one of their newest markets that they'd opened. And we saw a great opportunity because there's more Jamaicans living on the east coast of the U.S. than there are in Jamaica.
Wow. So we're actually learning right now.
And what the Amway opportunity provided was not only to own a business in Jamaica, but to remove the barriers of business ownership across international borders.
Right.
So that you as a Jamaican with friends and family overseas, well, they're buying toothpaste and laundry detergent and cleaning products and supplements and makeup and skincare. Why wouldn't they buy it from you on your website? It gets delivered to their door and you get US dollars in profit in Jamaica.
Right.
It was a no-brainer. And so we said, well, we're going to come to Jamaica and we're going to change Jamaica from the grassroots up because we're going to bring opportunity that has never existed before.
Right.
And I mean, now there's lots of opportunity with Amazon and Etsy and all these other companies out there that give you a chance to own a business. But none of them compare to what we do because they don't have a coaching and mentorship aspect. And they don't have a low startup cost. And so that's what we were able to bring to Jamaica was the opportunity for people to truly have a chance and to get their shot in business, whether it's they just want to make enough to pay JPS and not have a little Jeep show up every month, or they want to do something like my wife and I, where we decided we didn't want to work anymore. And my wife, amazing woman, we've been married for 12 and a half years. And 10 years ago next month, she walked away from her accounting profession.
Wow.
She was an accountant for a decade. And then almost a decade ago, she walked away and said, I'd rather travel the world and live life than show up at the office every day.
That's life. That's life. All right. Are you still doing that now?
Yep. That's what brings us here every month. We have a lot of people that we've committed to helping, committed to investing in. And so we come down here, we lease a house here. We bring our kids during the fall and winter and spring, just not summer, because they're boys. They're not boys. And they're not easy, man.
Yeah.
From 5, 6 o'clock in the morning until the sun goes down, they are going hard. And they just get overheated and heat rash. And we're like, just stay home during the summer. Beautiful. Go play in your backyard. When it's rainy and nasty there, let's go to Jamaica.
Yeah. All right. I hear you talking about family so often. And anybody who is big on family, I'm a part of that. Because what we do around here, we're very big on family. Talk to me about your beautiful wife that you just spoke about and your 2 sons. How did you meet?
Yeah, so the first job I ever had at a gas station when I was 16, the assistant manager there became a good friend of mine. And we maintained that friendship over many years, with any friendship, up and downs. But he was like me and didn't really have a lot of friends in his life. And so we always had that bond because we didn't hold a large circle of friends. And so in 2010, I was living in Jamaica. And he reaches out. He's like, hey, I'm getting married. I said, hey, congratulations. He's like, will you be my best man? I'm like, well, when's the wedding? I don't know if I'll be in the States or not. And he told me when it was. It was in September. And I said, I'm actually coming back in August. So, yeah, I'll be there. And so we're there. We're setting up. And, I meet his sister, who I didn't even know he had a sister. And so, we didn't really visit that night. Whole wedding the next day, and then the day after the wedding I get a call as I'm leaving church, and he said, hey, would you go help my parents take down all the wedding stuff, the tent and the chairs and the tables and all that. I'm like, yeah, no problem. And so right in front of me, she pulls in, and her and I are there for a while visiting and taking stuff down, working. And she's like, don't you live in that weird place? Like, what, Jamaica? She's like, yeah. And so we start visiting about that, and her family invites me out to dinner that night because they want to say thank you. And just through our conversation, there was places that she hadn't been in Oregon that I had been. And so I invited her on a date. And so we ended up going on a date a few days later. And she was trying to figure out how old I was because I was her brother's friend and it's her little brother. And she's asking her mom, is he Thomas's age? She's like, no, I think he's a little younger. And she finds out that I'm 21. She was 27 at the time. And her mom's like, well, he already committed, so you should go. But it's not like you have to marry the guy. 3 days later, she invites me over for dinner and a movie. I had just moved back from Jamaica. I was driving my brother's car because I didn't have a car anymore. I had my parents' house to live in, but they lived an hour out of the city. And that didn't make sense. So I was living in my friend's condo. And she invites me over and she's like, do you want to stay the night? I'm like, yeah. So I go downstairs and I grab my bag, which had everything I owned in it because I didn't have anywhere I was living. And she's like, oh, you brought your suitcase?
Yes.
I mean, it was like this big. I wouldn't qualify that as a suitcase, but 4 months later, we were engaged. 3 months after that, we were married.
Just like that?
Just like that.
Wow.
When we knew, we knew. We both knew what we didn't want and we both knew what we wanted.
Nice.
And, just like that, we were married. We were married for 8 years before we had kids because we were investing in our future. We were investing in the life that we wanted to have.
Right.
And we both knew that we didn't want to be tied down going to work while raising kids. And so we waited until we didn't have to go to work anymore. And we were at a place that it made sense. So we had our first son. He's not a COVID baby. He was, already brewing in the womb before COVID. But he was born in 2020 in September. He turns 4 next month. And he actually FaceTimed me right as you guys were pulling in. He's like, good morning, Daddy. What are you doing? And so he's, just he's fun. He's me as a kid, so he'll be a challenge. And then our second one, he'll be 2 in November. And they love Jamaica. They love coming here. We go through the airport, and our oldest walks up, "Wagwan, pretty lady." Oh, people just die. A guy walks by, he's like, "Wagwan, big man."
Yes, bum face.
Yeah,
Yes.
man. And so they're fun. We look forward to traveling with them, having them here, just getting to make that life, make those experiences, have those friends. Everybody asks, so what are you going to do when they start school? Like, well, there's no school system that would agree with our lifestyle of being gone 2 or 3 weeks out of the month. So we're going to homeschool.
Right.
And as they get older, we'll end up hiring a private teacher and be able to do that. But we want them to... we were doing a talk last night in Halfway Tree, and one of the ladies there, great entrepreneur, great young lady, she said, in society, we're taught what to think, not how to think. And we want to teach our kids how to think, so that they can be equipped for life. Right.
I think that's the difference between our culture, because we are taught what to think and not how to think. You understand? So I think that makes a big difference in between your culture and our culture. Now you're intertwined into our culture, so you're basically teaching us a lot.
Well, I will say, in the U.S., most people are taught what to think, and they're depends on the state, depends on how you grow up, depends on your circle and your community, but it's very much not taught how to think, and you're taught to go to school, get a good education so you can get a good job. And I could go on and on about that and my opinions around it, but just think about who owns the schools and think about where the majority of your paycheck goes.
How challenging is it now, going to and fro the States and here in Jamaica? Because I know there are challenges, no matter how minimal they are. How challenging is it right now?
It gets more and more challenging all the time, just with cost of living, with inflation, with airfare, with the cost of food here. I mean, in the States, we go to the discount grocery stores, we're very frugal, we know where to shop, and when we go shopping, we always say we don't have a list, we just look for what's a good deal. In Jamaica, nothing a good deal.
Exactly.
Everything enough money.
Yes.
And money. In the States, I can go buy a thing of ramen for 25 cents US. Here, it's $1 US.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make sense. When I first moved here in 2010, I could get a can of bully beef for cheap. Now bully beef is $5.
Who says bully beef anymore?
And so, I mean, the challenges are there. But you're either going to choose to overcome the challenges or you're going to succumb to the challenges. There's always going to be challenges. You just have to choose what you're going to do and what you're going to believe in. There's a difference between pain and suffering. Pain is real. Suffering is a choice.
True. So tips. You're hearing tips and tricks. All right. Can you share a memorable challenge you faced together as a couple and how it strengthened your relationship?
Well, there's so many. Challenges are just, especially when you own a business as a couple. We went on a huge leap of faith. So we live in Oregon, right above California, all the way on the west coast of the U.S. And through talking to our mentors and coaches in life and in business, they said, well, if you're going to plant roots in Jamaica and build a business there, even though you still have a job, you should at least live closer. So that you don't have to spend 24 hours flying to Jamaica. You can just hop on a plane from Florida. And so we said, okay. And we said, we'll move to Florida. So my wife, she had been established in corporate America. She knew the drill with getting recruiters and getting a job. And this is back 2013, just a year after we were married. And we said, we're moving to Florida. So she gets in touch with a recruiter. She lines up an interview. They like her. They want her to fly out. So she flies over to Florida, and the recruiter says, if they fly you out here, you're going to get the job. And we didn't have the money to do the flight. Thankfully, we had miles, so we were able to get her on an airline short notice. So she goes, does the interview, all goes well. So she goes and looks at an apartment or townhouse apartment thing, and she puts down the down payment. And we secure that to be able to lease it. You know, we chose that specific location because it was across the street from where she was going to be working.
Right.
So we're like, well, this makes sense. Me, I never really had a profession or a job of any substantialness. In my resume, I literally put professional petroleum distributor because I worked at a gas station. And so we get to Florida. I don't have a job. She doesn't have a job because they restructure the company and that position no longer exists. And thankfully, we still have a business. We have our Amway business that's paying our rent. Groceries, you know, that was scarce. If we wanted to go on a date, we would go to Publix because on Friday nights they would do a cooking demo and you could sample what they had cooked. And then we would go next door to Total Wine and we would have a sample of wine, and that was our date. We would go to Costco because they're like Price Mart and you can get free samples. And those are the things that we would do because it wasn't in the budget to go do anything else. We would go to the beach. We would go to the pool. You know, the beach, you had to drive there, so that cost money. And so she went 86 days without having a job. And that was a very challenging period because it's like, well, did we make the right decision? Is this what we should have been doing? Why is this happening? You know, there was no unemployment because she wasn't fired. So she quit. So literally no income. Me, I'm applying for anything and everything. I get a job working for a security company, selling security systems. Commission. My commission was based on the client's credit score. The higher their credit score, the more commission I got. So it literally had nothing to do with me or what I sold. It was all about, did they have good credit or not? And so that didn't last long because I needed income. I didn't need IFCOM. And so I went and responded to an ad that said, if you've ever mailed a letter, you're qualified. So I ended up in a call center making outbound calls, selling DHL and FedEx shipping. And, you know, I was there for about a year, a little less than a year before I was able to walk away from that and be a full-time entrepreneur. But that was definitely one of the most challenging times because did we make the right decision? You know, we just spent almost $10,000 US to move across the country, to move into an apartment, to uproot our life. And still buying plane tickets, going to Jamaica, going to Antigua, building business, expanding, putting in the work when we didn't know where the next money was coming from. And Uber and those things didn't exist back then, otherwise I would have done that. But that was one of those times where we didn't have family around. So we had to cleave to each other. And that strengthened our relationship because if it was going to be, it was up to us. And we were who each other had. It you know, didn't make sense to fight or argue about it or cast blame because we are who each other has.
And how do you balance work, family, personal time, all of that? How do you work with that? Because there has to be a balance right there. How do you do it?
Yeah, there has to be a balance. It's important to recharge. It's important to invest in your health and your wellness and your mental health. It's important to invest in kids and your marriage. In the beginning of being an entrepreneur, working full time, there is no balance. You know, if your checkbook's out of balance, it's hard to have your life in balance. And so there isn't a balance for a period of time, but I look at it more like, and this is an analogy that I've learned, you've got balls that you're juggling. Some are made of glass, some are made of rubber. Don't drop the glass balls. You know, that's your faith, your marriage, your kids, your finances. You can't drop those. They're going to shatter. The rubber ones, those you can drop. You know, if you're losing a little bit of sleep because you're on the grind or you have a newborn baby, that's a rubber ball. It'll bounce, you'll recover. You know, if you're not getting to watch the Netflix series you want or go to the parties that you want or go to the events that you want to go to, well, those will bounce back. You know, so much of life and being an entrepreneur is about subtraction more than addition. Because we all come into life, we all come into adulthood having a lot going on. It's not hard to fill our calendar. But to subtract out and to add back in the things that are truly going to move you forward, that's where I think you'll truly find balance in the future. Because when you're not worried about how you're going to pay your bills, you can invest more in your kids.
Right.
When you're not worried about where the next food's going to come from, you can invest more in your marriage.
Right.
When you can truly go out on a date and not worry about, are we going to share a meal, or how about we just do appetizers?
Yes.
Then you don't have that guilt, you don't have that hanging over your head, and you're able to create that balance where you're investing in those relationships,
right,
versus always being stressed.
Yes. And as you mentioned stress, how do you handle disagreements in your marriage?
We talk. You're going to have sparring matches in your marriage. It's not a fight, it's a sparring match. And when you spar, when you get into the ring, there's rules. And you need to have rules. You need to have boundaries in your marriage. You need to have boundaries in every relationship.
Yeah.
But, there's things you can say and there's things you can't say.
Right.
You never throw something out that you can't take back.
Right.
And so if it's heated and you need to walk away, you don't walk away. You say, I need 5 minutes. I need to go take a walk and I'll be back and we'll finish talking about this. Especially guys, this is to you. You don't just walk away from the other half, from your wife, from your spouse, because when they see you walk away, they don't know that you're coming back.
Right.
But if you tell them I'll be back in 10 minutes and you set a timer for 10 minutes or an hour or whatever you may need, everybody's different. It's okay. You're coming back and they know that you're not just leaving.
Right.
And so it's always important to have those boundaries in your relationship, and communication is key. When you have those challenges in a relationship, whether it be a marriage, whether it be your kids, whatever it may be, you need to be able to talk, and you need to be able to share how you feel, accept how you've made the other person feel, and find a resolution to move forward.
I hope you're listening, because you're getting nuggets, you're getting tips, and you're getting tricks, right? And it's holistic. It's not just about his entrepreneurial journey. It's about relationship-wise as well, and building healthy relationship. Now, can you describe a time when basically you or your wife would have made a significant choice, and how did you navigate that throughout your relationship?
Yeah, there's always...
Basically, it's a sacrifice.
Yeah. For my wife, I think it was more of a sacrifice than for me, because I came into the relationship with a business. I came into the relationship with a vehicle and a path that I was going down. And when we met, she had a vehicle and a path that she was going down. And she was pursuing accounting. She was pursuing being a CFO, climbing the corporate ladder and making the most of life in the way that she knew and that she saw. And then I came into the mix and I'm like, why do you work so much? That just doesn't make sense. Like, did you know you're on salary, so you get paid for 40 hours, not 80. You're donating the other 40. And she never looked at it that way. And I said, well, if we want to live the life that we want to live, then we have to make changes. And that meant, not going out with her friends on the weekend. That meant not going and hanging out with the ladies every evening after work. That meant not going. She loves going to concerts. That meant not going to concerts all the time. Because if we were going to invest in a business and in our future, we had to push pause on things in the present. And for her, that was something that was challenging, because she had an established life. She had a routine. She had where she was going. And then here comes this 21-year-old kid that says, why do you do all that? I get you're the president of the bowling league, but what's that do for your future? And that was a family event. Her whole family went bowling. That's what they did her whole life.
Right.
But if you want things to change, you have to change things. And she's an amazing woman that made those changes, that saw the vision, that saw where we could be and where we could go. And I always told her, when you get pregnant, you can just be pregnant. You don't need to go work. You don't need to go do anything.
Right.
And that's what she got to do.
Right.
And because of the things that we traded off, my opinion on sacrifice is, sacrificing something is giving up something greater for something less. But trading off something is you're trading off something for something that you want more. And we wanted a future more than we wanted a present. And we wanted to invest in our future more than we wanted to invest in our present. And we wanted to not focus on the fun, but focus on where we were going and the things we were going to get to go do. like this fall, we're taking both of our kids and my parents to Disney World for a week. And, you know, we get to go every few years, we go on an incentive trip, but now we're able to afford to bring them and to bring our kids and to make it a whole family thing where we didn't go to concerts, we didn't go out to eat, we didn't go do all that for many years so that we could make those decisions in the future.
Right. So we're going to transition in another phase because Dustyn does a lot of things that you might not know about. So he spoke about the distributing company earlier. I know him for agricultural products because we use his products and they work. We went through a period where it is that we had seeds and seedlings that we had to throw away because they were just not working, and it was his products that basically got us to where it is that we are right now. So we do greenhouse farming, and we also have the regular soil farming. So I know what I'm talking about when I say his products work. You can take my words for it because they do work. And we're going to show you clips on what it is that we're talking about. But I want you to talk about some of your products, some of the different businesses that you have. So talk to us about the different types of business, what type of products that you have, and how we can get to those products to buy. And if it is that we want to get involved in the distributing factor, how is it that we go about doing so?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate all the kind words and the testimony. You know, that's the greatest thing any business owner could have is a testimony from a customer that's happy.
Right.
And, you know, yes, we work in agriculture. I always tell people we work in agriculture, we work in basic commodities, we work in health and nutrition, beauty, household durables, water treatment, air treatment, cookware. Our water treatment, I'll show you pictures afterwards. We just changed our water filter after a year here. I am so grateful we have a great water filter because it goes in white and after a year, literally it was brown.
Wow.
And I just think about all those 160 plus contaminants that it's filtered out. And on top of it has a UV light. And so it kills 99.99% of waterborne bacteria. Wow. And so being able to know that what you're ingesting is good, it was huge, not just for me, but to have kids. And so, yes, agricultural micronutrients for plants, adjuvant and surfactant combo that helps with greenery, that helps with water, that helps with penetrating the cuticles of the leaves and really getting things into the plants so that they can thrive. Plants are like us, they need nutrients.
Yeah.
And a lot of products on the market don't have a large amount of nutrients in them. They have 3 or 4, where ours has 12. And so it really gives the plants what it needs to deal with the stress of the environment. Just like for us, we need nutrients to deal with the stress of our environment.
Right.
You know, gut health. I go to a great doctor, and she always asks, "What's your priority?" And I say, "Gut health and cellular health," because your stomach, your gut is what they call your second brain. And if it's not functioning and happy, it affects how you think. It affects your whole everything in your life. And then cellular health. You know, if your cells aren't performing at an optimal level, you're not getting the nutrients that you need. Literally, there's blockage. And so one of the things that we focus on largely in our business is nutrition, health and nutrition, supplements, gut support, weight loss, being able to target things like visceral fat and being able to burn that and help your body there. You know, also being able to target other things like prostate health, PMS health. It's all encompassing. You know, be able to have products that can support, which is a very unsupported thing. Through some of my friends in Jamaica that they've shared with me, menopause. It's not supported hugely in Jamaica. And to have a product like what we have through Neutralite that targets menopause and helps with the hot flashes and various things that women experience. And then also having skincare. Because guys, don't shut off here. We all only have one face.
Yes.
And
yes, I'm happy you touched on that. One face, one. Yes.
And you know, skincare is about your face, but it's also about your whole body. Skin is the largest organ on your body.
Yes.
And whatever goes on it, you're absorbing. And so to know that your lotions are good, that your soaps are good, but also when you're taking care of your face, because this skin is different than the rest of your skin.
Yeah.
that you're getting nutrients going into your skin, that you're actually, the science behind it and what artistry is done is amazing. One project that they had was a 7-year project on how to separate the molecules in hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is typically a larger molecule, and it doesn't penetrate beyond the first layer of the skin. They had a scientist spending years to break it down into 3 molecules, 3 different sizes, so it can go 3 layers deep into your skin and get better results. And artistry and Nutrilite, they come together with the best of nature and the best of science. If you don't know about Nutrilite, I recommend investigating them. Right. They have 6,000 acres of organic farmland around the world. And they literally, they'll be out there harvesting in the middle of the night if that's when is best for the plant to be harvested to get the most nutrients from it. Oh. They control everything from seed to supplement. They don't outsource it. And you can literally have a thing called traceability. So every supplement, every seed has an ID number, has a birth certificate that you can trace back and know where that supplement you took, where the seed was planted and grew, when it was harvested, everything. So it's really phenomenal what they've done, but then also for artistry as a skincare company to have access to that kind of science, the colors and the makeups coming from the plants, coming from the botanicals, white chia seed, which is something that they've patented, where they have their own form to put in their makeup, to put in their skincare. Is such a powerful antioxidant. But then also, you know, maybe you're not into nutrition, maybe you're not into skincare, maybe you don't farm. Do you brush your teeth?
Yes. Yes, please.
Do you use soap?
We do brush our teeth.
If I know anything about Jamaicans, they love brushing their teeth.
Yes, bad breath have nowhere around your circle, so we gotta brush it.
And so basic things like that, cleaning products that are derived from plant enzymes. So you're able to degrease your kitchen without using a harsh chemical. So you're able to clean your bathroom and you can still breathe afterwards. Having access to amazing products like that. Kids vitamins, kids supplements, immunity things. It's almost back to school. What happens as soon as the kids go back to school? They bring germs home. So we have to boost our immune systems, not just for our kids, but for ourselves. Because if you're an entrepreneur like us, well, you can't afford to be sick. The crops don't quit growing just because you don't feel good.
Exactly.
And so you still have to be able to perform. And so to be able to perform at our optimum it is so important. And my kids, my youngest, he likes protein shakes. My oldest, he's like, no, give me food. So we have a great protein powder for kids. And what we'll do is we'll make popsicles out of it. He'll eat a popsicle, get his protein, get his vitamins, get his nutrients, get his fiber, but he won't drink the shake. So you just find what works. You know, they love gummies. So that works really good to have gummies and brainiums, omegas for the kids, elderberry. You know, just if we can get nutrients right, it helps how we perform. It helps how kids perform in school, brain health, gut health, cellular health. It starts at a young age and it goes all the way until the end.
Who has the biggest influence on you and why? Because I've heard the mentorship. You never touched on it much, but I heard it, and it's a part of the reason why you're who you are today. Mentor is very important. Who has the most influence on you and why?
It's more of a they than a who. You know, when it comes to following teaching, you want to follow the principles, not the man.
Right.
Because men, women, we fall short. But if you can follow principles, they don't fail. They don't fall short. You know, success principles are success principles. The majority of them came from the Bible. You know, John C. Maxwell, #1 author on leadership in the world.
Yes.
And you know, I follow him a lot. Big influence on my life. I'm part of a group called Worldwide Group, and that's where I've learned the principles. That's where I've grown into the person that I've become today. That's the group that I got around that changed me from that rebellious little kid to the man that I've become, because they reached inside the boy and pulled out the man. You know, key people in my life, Ty Crandall, Brad Duncan, those are 2 of the key men in my life that influenced me the most. And Brad and his wife are actually coming to Jamaica in October to do a talk. And, you know, spending their own money, coming down here out of the kindness of their heart, because they're successful entrepreneurs and they believe in giving back. And so being able to get around a group of men, but then being able to have the personal coaching with a gentleman like Ty Crandall, my best friend. We're actually headed out to St. Mary tomorrow. He's building a villa right on the beach, and it's not built yet. They're just getting ready to pour the concrete. But I'm like, why don't we go camp out? There's that breeze again. Oh, it feels good. So we're gonna go camp out on the beach tomorrow night, and just to be able to go make memories and to not have to sit in a coffee shop or a boardroom to connect with people that have created success, but to go do things that they love to do, that I love to do, to build a friendship.
Yeah.
Because with a friendship, you can accomplish a lot. If it's just a business relationship for transactional purposes, there's a lot less that can be accomplished because there isn't the heart in it, like there is when you have a friendship and it's not transactional.
Right. How can we get some of your products to buy? Where can we find you? Where can we find your products?
Yeah, you can find me. You're welcome to share my contact info.
Right.
We have our office in Halfway Tree. We have our small office here at our house in Barbican. But we're always available via WhatsApp and able to fill those orders. I actually have a friend. He's over by Dubai right now coaching football, and he just reached out to me this morning like, hey, I have a family member that needs some vitamins and needs some energy drinks. Can you hook them up?
That's an energy drink, right?
Yeah. So this is one of our energy drinks. It's called Excess Energy Drink. It is B vitamins. So this here is a 12-ounce can that has almost 7,000% vitamin B12, no sugar, 20 milligrams of sodium, no carbs, and 2 grams of protein. It's all the energy that you need without the crash, because you're not getting a sugar high and then crashing. And even though you can get sugar-free energy drinks out there, majority of them are loaded with sodium.
Right.
And that's not healthy. So to be able to have a healthy energy drink that gives you the vitamins, because B vitamins unlock the nutrients and the energy from your food. And that can make a big difference.
Yes. And he has different flavors. Right now, I tasted the tropical and it tastes very, very good. So he has the watermelon now, and let me tell you, I tasted it a while ago and it tastes really, really great. So here we go again.
There's about 16 flavors, and there's a couple new flavors coming out this fall. We don't know what they are yet, but when we do, we'll let you know.
Right. And what are you most passionate about, and what is one lesson that you have learned that you think everyone should know?
Most passionate about would be being a great husband and a great dad. That's probably the biggest passion that I have, on something that I work on daily, because that's probably the biggest challenge that we can have in life. Because in order to be a great husband and a great dad, we have to be selfless, which means thinking of ourselves less.
Right.
And so that's probably my biggest passion. Biggest passion as far as lifestyle and things that we want to do would be travel. We love traveling. We fly 5,000 miles a month, just back and forth from Oregon to Jamaica. And we absolutely love doing that. One of the biggest things that I learned, and I don't remember exactly where it came from, I heard it in a talk, and it was a formula around where we end up in life. And it goes like this. Association leads to input. Input leads to thoughts. Thoughts lead to actions. Actions lead to habits. Habits lead to character. And your character determines your destiny. And if you go at the very beginning and you're able to get around an association that gives you a good input, and a lot of people think input is just like a conversation or who they're listening to, but input is everything in our life. It's what we see, it's what we hear, it's what we taste, it's everything. It's the music that we listen to, it's the conversations we choose to have, it's the things we do on our phones in private. That's input. And that leads to what we think about, which leads to how we act, which leads to the habits that we create, which ultimately leads to what we're known by, and that determines our destiny.
Right.
And that's not an original. I don't know exactly who it came from, but it was powerful in my life.
Okay. All right. What legacy do you hope to leave for others?
A legacy of opportunity, a legacy of living a better life than they had before we met. Whether that be in business together, whether that be because I was able to add value in some way and now they're better off in their life, but to always be able to leave a legacy and to be known for making an impact everywhere that I went.
All right, so we have two catches for you right now. If your journey could be a movie, what would be the title and which movie star would you be?
That's a hard one. That is a hard one. I would probably call it The Adventures of DK, Dusty and Kimberly.
Mm-hmm.
And which movie star?
Mm-hmm.
Well, fact about me, I don't know artists and I don't know actors. I don't know athletes. I've never followed any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Character from a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I like Rocky.
Who is Rocky?
Rocky Balboa.
Do you know Rocky?
Famous boxer. And just from where he came from, challenges he faced, what he overcame,
Mm-hmm.
and how he was able to be victorious.
Mm-hmm.
And just the story around how that whole movie series was written, and he wanted to star in the movie.
Okay. No.
And just the power behind the intentionality.
Mm-hmm. So great. So, finally, now that you've named the star that you would want to be,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to create a 30-second song with the title of the movie.
If I start singing, you'll turn off the video.
So you can DJ.
I wouldn't
So if
even
you
know where
can't
to
sing-
start. If I had to do that, I would pull out my phone.
Mm-hmm.
I would open up AI,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say, give me a 30-second song
Mm-hmm.
based off of this movie with this title.
So do it.
I need a 30-second song with the title DK Adventures with the theme of Rocky Balboa.
That's the power of technology. Dum, 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 dum. Come to 7. DK, he fights with his might. In this wild world, he stands up to the flight. Like Rocky in the ring, he got the fire within. DK's adventure, let the legend begin. Hey, hey, hey. All right. So it was a pleasure being here with you, Dustyn. We originally came to spend about 5 to 10 minutes with you, and we have spent almost an hour talking. Now it's your turn to ask me one question. One question. Don't get me in a problem. Don't get me in no problem. One question that you'd want to know, or you'd want to hear my opinion on something.
Okay. Well, we'll keep it fun. We'll keep
Yes.
it light.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you the same question.
Mm-hmm.
Theme of your movie and the
Oh
actor
my
that
God.
you would be.
I wasn't planning for that one. All right.
Me either.
Sylvester Stallone.
Mm-hmm.
I like Jason Statham. I
Good action movie characters.
I like fight. So that's something that you must know about me. I like fight, but me still loving fighter. Yes, those would be my 3 actors for now. Song.
Get Out Alive.
Can I use that?
Why not? It's yours.
So Get Out Alive. He helped me with that one. So yeah, Get Out Alive. I don't need to sing no song.
No.
Oh. So Get Out Alive is the name of the title. And
those would be great actors for that.
Sylvester Stallone. And I would like to see Oprah in that one, as well as what's her name? She's my favorite actress, and I can't remember her name. She came in Empire. She was the mother of the children in Empire. Taraji, that Henson P. Henson.
Okay.
Taraji P. Yeah, she's my favorite. I'm sorry if you watch. I'm sorry, but I love you. We've got each other. But thank you so very much, Dustyn, for being here with us. Or thank you for hosting us. It's really a pleasure. So that's a wrap.
Well, it's a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure.